When the New York Football Giants shocked the world, upsetting the Patriots 17-14 on February 3, 2008, it cast them into a conversation of one of the greatest sports upsets of all time. David took down Goliath on a national stage. At the end of the 2007 NFL season, the Giants concluded with them being crowned as Super Bowl champions. What if I told you that road started in Albany, New York? Back in 1996, the New York Giants decided to move their summer training camp to the University at Albany. They had a 17-year run up here in the Capital District and impacted the community in a major way. Thousands of fans would make the trip upstate to see their beloved Giants practice at a school that wasn't known to too many people.
The Giants, I thought, were the most popular team in the market to begin with, going back to when I came here in the late 80s. Giants always the number one team, but they solidified themselves as the number one team when they touched ground here in the capital region.
I always thought that the best part for the fans was that, there are a lot of fans from this area who have season tickets to the Giants or who watch the Giants on TV every week, but there was no other way that you could get the experience of being within 5 or 10 yards of Eli Manning or asking for Tiki Barber's autograph. I think the one-on-one personal interaction that people got at training camp, either by standing along the fence and watching practice or then the famous autograph alley as the players were coming off the field. I think that kind of close-up time with the team was something that was really special to the fans in this area.
It was a time when teams saw the value of getting away as a team and traveling and being isolated from family, friends, etc., and developing a cohesive unit early in the process, well before the regular season. And that's why teams travel. Some teams still do this, but most teams now train at their own complexes.
Y'all know this man got a book? It's like a bestseller.
New York Times bestseller.
You know bestseller?
Don't get yourselves a copy.
This
Bring
guy,
it over to training camp. I'll sign it for
This
you.
guy got a bestseller. Holy smokes. What my book gonna
He
do?
just ain't put one out yet. That's the problem.
Hey, go get the book. Seriously, though. Look at my face.
It was awesome. It was awesome because you would see the guys out at local businesses too. So, I mean, a lot of the guys would go to a cross the street pub for dinner and drinks and stuff. So it was really cool, like seeing them out at some of your favorite places and seeing the players in public and being able to interact with them.
They would get 3,000 people over there for a practice. So they used to come and eat and then go back for the second practice in the afternoon one. So it was huge. It was huge for everybody around, the whole economy.
For the New York Giants to be in town was pretty amazing because you were looking at your work schedule. Do I go to work early just so I can see the afternoon practice?
My name is Roger Weiland. I'm the sports director at WNYT in Albany, and I've been here since 1986. And I'm also the host of Big Board Sports on 104.5, The Team, ESPN Radio.
I'm Pete Iorizzo. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director for Media Relations at UAlbany. At the Times-Union, I was a reporter and then sports editor.
Mark McGuire, I'm the Executive Sports Editor of the Daily Gazette in Schenectady, New York.
I'm AJ Indovina. I'm from Albany, New York, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan.
Joe Natale, I'm partners with Maggie Smith.
My name is Mark Harris, and I am a lifelong Giants fan.
All the TV stations worked together to put together a video that we sent to the Giants to say, hey, this is a reason that you should move training camp to the University at Albany. And this is what Albany offers. This is what the surrounding area offers. This is what we can do for you for hotels and dorms. And it was a big project, and it lasted 16 years, and hated to see them go.
It was a time when teams saw the value of getting away as a team, traveling and being isolated from family, friends, etc., and developing a cohesive unit early in the process, well before the regular season. And that's why teams travel. Some teams still do this, but most teams now train at their own complexes.
First day of training camp was always quote-unquote move-in day. and you'd all the players would be over at Freedom Quad, and they'd be moving into their dorms, and they'd look like college students moving into their dorms. You'd see, like, Eli Manning walking up to his dorm room with like a pair of shower sandals and a laundry basket and a blanket, like any other college student would. And I always thought that was, it was pretty cool that here you've got these NFL football players who are making millions of dollars, and here they are going off to live in a dorm for 4 weeks, just like any other incoming freshman would.
The University of Albany became a bigger part of the Giants because a number of the employees at the University of Albany ended up helping out the Giants. I certainly remember Brian DePasquale, who was the longtime sports information director at the University of Albany. He was at camp every day. I mean, he followed Jim Fossil around and Tom Coughlin around constantly and did whatever he could do to help out. So there was a lot of moving parts when they were here, and I think we all felt a part of what the Giants were hoping to accomplish, which was Super Bowls, and at least one Super Bowl was won coming out of training camp here in Albany.
They practiced out on those grass fields out there, and I think there was a lot of attention paid to making sure that those fields were well maintained because the Giants were using them. Could you argue that in terms of elevating the profile of the UAlbany athletic department, did the Giants play some role in that? Yeah, probably. I think that's probably a little hard to quantify, but certainly it got the UAlbany name out there.
There's an economic factor. You're talking about 40,000 people coming in to see them play. So there's the influx of fans coming both in the market and outside the market to come see them in training camp. You're talking a benefit to restaurants, hotels, the racetrack. So there was certainly an economic benefit to having the Giants in town, and certainly a civic pride element. There were signs up throughout the city. Albany, home of the New York Giants training camp. Albany is a very interesting sports market because of its geographic location. It's smack dab in the middle of a lot of major sports markets. Obviously you have New York to the south, but you also have Boston to the east. You have Buffalo to the west, you have Montreal to the north. We're not that far from Philadelphia. You have Syracuse also just to our west as well. So there's a lot of different fandoms here, a lot of different favorite teams. But if you were to rate all the favorite teams among the Capital Region sports fans, 1 and 1A would certainly be the New York Yankees and the New York Giants. They reign supreme above all. So having the New York Giants in Albany certainly was a big deal to a lot of area sports fans.
Initially when they came, you went to every day. You were pretty much there I shouldn't say every day because we had to work, even though 16 years ago I was in my early 20s. But as soon as you got to work, you went to go check out the practice. Your days off, you check out the practice. Then you naturally assumed that they would always be there.
When I was young, when Shockey was, the guy to get an autograph from because he never signed, I was leaving camp the one day, walking to the car, a guy comes speeding up in a truck, waves us on by, and I had my Shockey jersey on, and I'd look in the window of the car, and it's Jeremy Shockey. So he motions me to come over to the car. I walk over there, he reaches over, grabs a football, signs it, and tosses out the window and says, "Here you go, man, have a good day." It was crazy because the guy never signed anything. He was one of those guys that came off the field, ran up the pathway right into the locker room, never stopped, never said hi. Unlike a guy like Eli Manning, who would stand there and sign for fans for hours until it got dark, till he couldn't see anymore. It was awesome. It was awesome because you would see the guys out at local businesses too. So a lot of the guys would go to across the street pub for dinner and drinks and stuff. So it was really cool, seeing them out at some of your favorite places and seeing the players in public and being able to interact with them.
They planned their vacations around it. The Giants are a big draw, and even when they were losing, the people still came to see them play. Eli Manning, and they came to see him. And then what made it better for us, the Giants used to come in here. We used to get all the Giants in here. Defense stood on one side of the building, and the offense sat by themselves on another side. Like Eli Manning and the offensive team sat up front here, and the defense were always at the bar area. And it was huge.
Right across the street, all would go over there for dinner, for lunch, whenever they could. So yes, I mean, economically, with the restaurants around that area, the hotels around that area, certainly had major impact. And when they decided they weren't coming back, it was a major loss.
It was very good when they came here. I went over, I had just bought the place, I gave them a card, and the next thing I knew, they were all here eating. They were a lot of fun. Michael Strahan stopped in to say he was never going back to football. He was going to be a newscaster. Everything was just great. A lot of people come in looking for him. Even if they weren't here, they came to see if they would come in. But they did frequent the place quite a bit.
You know, during the early days, there were 2 practices a day. There'd be a practice in the morning and a practice in the evening. So, you know, for the local businesses around here, you'd get sort of a wave of customers before and after the morning practice, and then, you know, especially after the evening practice, people would come over here from, 5 to 7, watch practice, and then stop at one of the local establishments for a drink or something to eat on the way out. So I think it was really important to the businesses right here along Western Avenue.
There were always great storylines. There are storylines, sure, you could write about the Eli Mannings of the world, you could write about the Michael Strahans of the world, but a lot of the stories about the people on the bubble, the roster, or some interesting human interest stories. You could get those players, and they made for really interesting stories.
The biggest memory for me was covering the Giants and their Super Bowl win over New England. They had 2 of them. I covered them both, but the one I remember the most was Indianapolis, because when the game was over, I was with Chris Honorado, and there's a lot of media that covers the Super Bowl. So our plan was, when the gate opened and the podium portion of the post-game Super Bowl was over, that we were going to try to make a run at Tom Coughlin. See if we somehow could get a one-on-one interview with Tom Coughlin, which is not allowed immediately after the game on the field. However, we had UAlbany connections. So the gates opened, and the post-game celebration and ceremony on the podium was over, and Tom Coughlin was walking off the podium, and Chris was my photographer, and I'm holding tripod, and we are charging toward Tom Coughlin. The bodyguard, who's still the bodyguard, his name is Murph. He's a big guy. Murph's a big guy, but we got to know Murph from training camp at the University of Albany. And Murph is shoving everybody out of the way. No interviews with Coughlin on the field, only in the press conference. There'll be no interviews with Coughlin, and he's shoving every media guy away until he spots us. And he knows us from Albany. You know, we had some cold beverages together at the across the street pub. Got to know Murph a little bit over the years. So what does Murph do? He gives me a little nod when we finally got to our destination. So Coughlin's here, we're here, Murph goes, and we got right in with Tom Coughlin. Literally walked off the field with him in Indianapolis, and I asked him one question about the Super Bowl and the win, and he looked at me and said, "Roger," and then gave me an answer. And that made our whole Super Bowl trip because he recognized me because of our one-on-one interviews that we did every week, and we got to know each other a little bit. He recognized me, used my name.
Hey, Roger.
Good to see you, Coach. How's this one feel?
All right. It feels great. It feels great. All
right, thank you.
To win it the way we did, just amazing.
Phenomenal.
It's been that kind of year.
Did you ever doubt Eli?
Never.
But it made the entire week and localized it for us on the road covering the Giants in the Super Bowl. So that was one big memory. And because of the University of Albany and the training camp here, we were able to get a one-on-one interview with Jim Fossil the week of the Super Bowl in Tampa. He did 4 or 5 one-on-one interviews, just exclusive interviews, and we were included because we were the Albany station, and that's where the Giants train.
I thought it was inevitable when they built the complex down at the Meadowlands. It had all the amenities they needed and more. UAlbany did not offer an indoor practice facility, which you need for inclement weather. You also the argument that you need to get away in order to build up team bonding is somewhat nebulous. I understand it, and in some ways I agree with it, but it's tough to weigh that argument versus having so many more amenities and features at your own training complex.
I understand that they, have their own training facilities now, and they have the Quest Diagnostic Center down in Jersey, and it's, top of the line equipment, best money can buy. So, it makes a lot more sense for them as an organization to be down there than up here at Albany.
Towards the end of the thing, you knew they signed that big deal where they made this stadium and they wouldn't do summer practices there anymore. And I personally believe it's a big hole for the Giants fan community or any football fan not to see them there, because it was pretty amazing.
It's too bad because I think the fans, I think fans really did enjoy the fact that they were here, and the fact they're not here anymore. It's certainly not any fault of the Giants, who built a beautiful new training facility right there, and it's certainly not any fault of the university, because I think that the Giants always went out of their way to compliment U Albany on what a terrific host the school was. But the nature of training camp changed dramatically too. When the Giants first started coming here, it was a 4-week deal, and there were 2 practices a day, and now training camp is just 2.5 weeks. It just sort of didn't really make any sense anymore, especially with the Giants having that new facility down there to come all the way up here and move their entire operations to Albany, New York for only 14 or 15 practices as opposed to the 30 it was 15 years ago.
Huge loss when they left. All the businesses around, the people that used to come here for it, and then they also came for Saratoga, and they came from here. So the economy in this area got crushed by it. It was huge. It's huge. Big loss.
The fact that fans felt like they were a part of a city that had an NFL team when they left, that kind of went away. But for 16 years, boy, there were a lot of people that even if they weren't Giant fans, they kind of were, because the Giants trained at the University of Albany. There was definitely a hole left when the Giants made the move out.
From 1996 until 2012, the New York Giants made the University of Albany their summer home. In that time, they won 2 Super Bowls and appeared in 3. It doesn't look like they'll be back anytime soon, and have their training camp now in their own facilities down in the Meadowlands. All we can do now is look back at the memories that were made when Albany were Giants.